Hi, everybody. William Huffman here, and I'm also joined with
Sarah Huffman.
And today we're going to be talking about failure.
We also want to.
And as always, the Mr. Marshall Saunders.
Hello.
As we've thought about our podcast, we really thought, let's talk about home ownership. How do we prep a house? How do we flip a house? All these different things related to real estate. But as we've been talking and really going through, like, what really gets us excited and what we really are natural speaking about.
We love real estate, but not everybody does.
Right. And so we thought for our podcast isn't going to be real estate specific. Our podcast is really going to be lifestyle, personal development, and just general hurdles that either we've tackled or other people have had. Because the more we talk about things like failure, the more we can normalize it and not be so ashamed of maybe some things that have happened in our lives. But really, those are the pieces that are going to launch us to future and bigger success than we ever thought possible.
Absolutely. Failure is such an amazing part of everything we do, and it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I heard somebody say, hey, what's all this hype about failure? Why are we celebrating failure? What's up with this failure culture? And yeah, we're celebrating failure, but it's only good to celebrate it to learn from it. To like failure for failure is pretty stupid. If you're like, yay, I screwed up really bad at this and I suck, so I'm just going to quit. Well, now you're a quitter and a failure. But if you're able to take life lessons from that failure and grow from it, learn, implement, fail, and evaluate life, that's when the failure becomes something to celebrate to an extent. I'm not saying... Does that make sense?
Even like growing up, like when we had failure growing up, and even failure like maybe a year ago or whatever that is, I used to think of failure as something to be embarrassed of, that I wanted to hide. I carried a lot of shame and guilt around failure, and now it's like, wait a minute, those failures, or what I perceived as a failure, was actually just a stepping stone. So I'll give you an example. When people would ask me like, oh, like now you're in real estate, but how did you get here? I used to really internally feel a lot of failure when I would say, oh, I was a teacher for 6 years, then I went into retail for 9 years, and now, I joined Will in real estate. And I think, oh gosh, Will, please turn that around. Really, when I think about that, internally, I used to think about like, oh, I basically failed at teaching, I failed at retail. I guess I'm doing real estate because my husband's really good at it. And in turn, no, not at all. The reason we're really excellent at real estate is because of all the training and the trials and the successes that like I've personally had in teaching and in retail.
So, Sarah, what's one of your... This might be hard to admit, but what's one of your biggest failures at the time that you didn't learn from? I know, right? It's a tough question.
That I didn't learn from?
Yeah, at the time you didn't learn from. Like you didn't realize until maybe just recently or later on in life that...
Let's talk about relationships.
There you go.
I remember when I was 28 years old and I failed at my first relationship that was a serious relationship. I remember I failed at that and I just felt awful inside and I didn't know how to fix it. So the only thing I knew to do was call a friend of mine, and I was really honest and vulnerable, and I was like, I don't even know what to do. And she said, you just need to call my girl Nancy Van Dyke and this therapist. And I went to a therapist, but I literally, because of going to the therapist, thought I was failing because I couldn't figure it out.
Well,
so like
yeah.
you start to think about failure and like these, now talking about failure, it's so different, but it's because we've worked through so many different scenarios in our life and have always like built and figured it out.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think also, we talk about failure and what we can learn from it, and the shame that we should let go. But also, it's really important. I think the most important part about failure is the debilitating fear of failure stops you from doing so much. So
Yeah.
it's not so much. It's also learning from failure and growing from failure, but also not letting that failure stop us from trying new things and stop us from living the life that we want. That's so important.
So I think that's so interesting that you bring that up, because I was writing down just my little notes here, And I wrote down my biggest failure, or my biggest fear is, and I'm like, okay, well, what is my biggest fear? Like mice. Okay, I'm definitely afraid of mice.
Spiders for me, I get it.
Yeah.
Those
Yep.
can be killed.
Yeah. Spiders are disgusting.
But so then I was really thinking, I'm like, yeah, my biggest fear is failure. Like that is my biggest fear. So why do you think I'm not going to go out and run a 5K? Because I feel in my head I'm not going to do it, or I'm not going to finish, or I'm going to come in last, so I don't do anything. Well, no, every step towards that potential failure is success. You just have to keep going because it's progress.
I guess I might be the oddball here. I've never really been afraid of failure.
I was actually going to ask you
Yeah.
how you would define failure.
Failure is
You can turn that on you.
no, it's okay. All right. I got this. Hey everybody, William here. I don't. Failure is when something bad happens to you and you don't learn from it. I mean, that's true failure. Growth is when something bad happens to you and you learn from it. I mean, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm never afraid of failure. Excuse me. I'm never afraid to fail. I'm afraid of failure. As in, if I screw up or I don't get something done right or it doesn't go the way I want it to, if I don't learn from that moment, that petrifies me. If I'm willing to do something but I'm not willing to learn from my mistakes, that's true failure. Mm-hmm. Because you're just dead in the water. You've wasted all that time, energy, and effort. But I equate small failures with massive growth. And large failures can be devastating, but it's just, it drives me. I love it when I screw up. Because I'm never going to do that again.
Really?
Well, okay, maybe not when it comes to pissing you off or something, or
I wish that was true for me.
Yeah,
I'm like,
okay.
wait a minute.
No, okay. I want to bring this to like a business aspect of it here for a second.
Not like dishes, because I immediately
Yeah,
went to dishes.
okay, chores. I am really, really bad at chores. Okay, so but let's keep this a little in the realm of, okay, let's talk business, then we'll talk personal for a second, because I will talk about that because I'm trying to do better personally with failure as well. You know, like the whole light bulb thing, 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. When I fail, I find a way not to do it, and guess what? The next time I try, I might even succeed even better than I would have the first time if I didn't fail. Does that make sense?
Actually, it does, because I think about, I'm going to bring it to real estate for a second. I think about a listing that we lost about a year ago. And it was so painful to lose this listing because I felt from an agent perspective, we went above and beyond on numerous things, yet we still failed. They still wanted to cancel the contract. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, for this entire year since then, our approach to listing a property, what we do, expectations, all of those things, we have actually done a better job.
Absolutely.
Because I never want to be in that position again where someone was unhappy.
Whether it was our fault or not, whether it was in our control or wasn't in our control, mm-hmm. we took that, we lost a listing. They canceled on us, and absolutely good for them. I mean, that was their right. But you're so right. We took all of that anger, all of that frustration, mm-hmm. all of that. There was some sadness there, you know.
It was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. You just felt like, oh my God, I just let these people down. And there's more to the story, folks, but we're just gonna just go with this. There always is.
Because you know that whole thing called confidentiality.
Exactly. But that's so true. At that moment, that was a switch. That was a switch for us. We had kind of just went along doing things the way we'd always done them. And then all of a sudden, that had to happen to us. Mm-hmm. And we have elevated what we do and how we do it because of that pretty bad failure. I mean, mm-hmm. there were tears from me and you, and there was tears. There were tears from everybody.
Yep.
That's such a great way to put it.
But I think even though, well, think about it, we're a year out from that experience.
Yep.
And this is really the first time that we've ever looked at that failure as
that was
success.
one of the catalysts of it.
Yeah. Because no one talks about failure.
No, I mean, we do a decent amount, mm-hmm. but like you said, this is one of those we just had this happen to us right now, right here. That is literally was a pivotal part in the change of our personal, mm-hmm. of our personal business and growth from that way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I was Pinteresting a few things on failure. So If anyone wants to like send me anything that they've read about failure, or if you're on Pinterest, send it my direction, because
How can they find you on Pinterest?
I'll go through that later.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to do it right this second because I don't remember.
We'll edit that in.
We can edit that
Yeah,
in.
there it is, editing.
But it was just
The power of editing, Facebook land.
it was just really going through famous failures, because as we're sitting here, sometimes I can get deep into my head and be, kind of like, oh, check, look at all these failures, and no one else has failed like this, or look at all these successful people, they're, I feel like I have to hide things or whatever. No, we're done hiding things. We're just going to share our failures for the variety of things that we've gone through. But this quote came up, and it was by Winston Churchill: "Success is not final, failure is not fatal."
Hey, that's what I have on my skateboard. It's similar to that. But
Similar to
yeah,
that.
Yeah, failure is not fatal, so keep trying.
But I thought that was really interesting. And
Say that again. Sorry, I won't cut you off
Of
this
course,
time.
on a skateboard, it could be.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
That's the only little
Yeah.
caveat
he's got
there.
good life insurance.
Yeah.
So skate away, buddy.
Yeah.
Just kidding. It's not really a skateboard. It's just
It's just a deck.
it's just a deck.
Okay.
It's in my office. It looks pretty.
All right.
But it said success is not final
Love it.
and failure is not fatal. And the cool thing is like in my head, I keep looking for this like place of success where internally, externally, all feel successful. But once we reach success, that isn't going to be, I don't want to stay at that level of success. I want to like keep growing, keep pushing, because as soon as I hit one level of success, I want to get to the next.
And that was said by Winston Churchill, right?
Yeah, and I mean, interpreted by Sarah Huffman.
But let me just say something here. Like, so are you telling me failure's been around for a long time?
Yes.
And people back then weren't even talking about it. And we're not some trendsetters. There are some big time people out there who are talking about failure. But in general, like a lot of you listening to this know us. And you may not even know about these failures and we're pretty open people. But it's even difficult for us to talk about this. But the only way you can have those breakthroughs like we just had about the property last year is by having them out loud and with somebody where you're vulnerable, but you feel safe.
Well, and I think too, like Will and I keep talking about, we actually have started like putting a book together and ideas around the book. And my whole thing with this book is saying, failures. And we can go through all of them. I have them written down here, and you can follow them
On Pinterest that we don't know
Pinterest
yet.
board that I don't even know my name for. But it really is like, how can we be okay with where we're at in failure and still be vulnerable to share about it? Because I bet you, let's talk about different failures. People can have relationship failures, like things that you can control. Like if you have a health failure, that's not always in your control.
Yep.
But like you have relationship failures, you have financial failures, you have
You can say health because a lot of your health is in your control.
well, right, like
Mm-hmm.
I have failed so many diets. I could write a book just on every diet I've tried and how I've failed. But honestly, like if I were to write that book today, it would be more that my mindset has been wrong the entire time through all those failures. It wasn't necessarily I don't want to place blame on why things did or didn't succeed, because I was like, my mind wasn't right to even have a chance at succeeding.
Right. That's a great thing right there. It's if you're not open to failure, how can you be open to succeeding?
Yep.
I mean, think about that. If you're not, fear will kill more dreams than failure ever will. I wish I could say I could take credit for that, but I can't. But that's powerful to me. Fear will kill more dreams than failure ever will.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to fail, you're not allowing yourself to be successful. The potential of being successful. Mm-hmm. Just because you failed doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I screwed up, I failed, yay, I'm going to be rich now. No, you could really just fall flat on your face and be screwed. But you have to learn from that most of the time and get back up and try again. So I'm not saying, go out there and fail a couple times and you're gonna be the best at whatever you want to do. I'm saying, but if you don't try, you'll never know.